Hello, good afternoon. You're watching Closing Trades on ET now. I'm Anisha Jain. With me is Aisha Faredi, and of course, Kunal Bothra is always in the studio to run us through the technicals. We'll be joined by Naresh Mirani as well to talk to us about the technicals of the market, and on the fundamentals, Pashupati Advani will be joining us shortly. But the texture of the market is largely green right now. We managed to scale past the level of 24,300 on the index today, a record high level coming in for Bank Nifty, led by that gains that we saw in HDFC Bank, and of course, Sensex hit that coveted mark of 80,000 today. But from there has been a bit of a cool off, not by a whole lot, but yes, we have given up 24,300. The financials continue to clearly do very well. So HDFC Bank has had a rub-off impact on ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, even Kotak is actually bouncing back after that drubbing it got yesterday. SBI too has bounced back, even if HDFC Bank is close to the lowest point of the trading session. Reliance is not participating today, but that's pretty much made by the kind of moves that we have seen on financials. Talking about financials, even PFC, REC for that matter, on account of the Bernstein note, have been up anywhere between 3 to 5% in the trading session. And in the last few minutes, there has been a bit of a bounce back on some of these shipyard and defense names. So Cochin Shipyard is up 6%, Muscat Dock is trading with a gain of 7%, Gujarat Pipavav is up 8%, and look at that solid rally on Castrol India. I think it's the second or third day that stock has seen quite a bit of momentum. In fact, Castrol India right now sitting with a gain of around 16%. So a lot of these individual movers, Aisha, and of course then financials is the one which is leading the rally today.
Oh yeah, absolutely it is, and not as much of a heavyweight or contributor on the index, but look at the spurt that you're seeing under Tata Consumer, for instance. That stock has jumped up about 3.5%. It's the top mover on the index right now. Shriram Finance as well, moving from strength to strength. There's Apollo Hospitals, which is sitting on a gain of about 2%. But this is coming at the cost of stark underperformance from Reliance today. L&T has not participated, at least today. And of course, there's TCS as well, which is lower by about almost 1.25%. So it's a market of both ends, really. Titan 2 down about 1.6%. From within the broader end of the market, Petronet LNG, TVS Motors, Gujarat Gas, and even Ashok Leyland is seeing some petering down. But on that note, let's welcome on board our chartists as well as the fundamental experts and figure out what they're making of the trading day so far. Kunal, Naresh, Pashupati, hi, afternoon to all of you. Naresh, let me come to you first. What's the market construct looking like? It's pretty single-handedly led by banks once again.
It continues to rotate. The interesting part is it's not just the ICICI HDFC Bank which had an possible event that is going up. We are seeing an uptick across the large cap as well as the small cap banking names. So we are seeing a breakout happen in the RBL Bank, a City Union Bank. You even have a Federal Bank hit a new all-time high. So the structure is getting positive across the whole banking space. We've hit a new all-time high on the banking index as well. So that's a good structure. So positive on the banking space, and that could drive the markets going forward.
Right. Kunal, what are the stocks that you're betting on right now, other than, of course, HDFC Bank?
No, I think Axis Bank is the other stock which is looking attractive. That's from the large cap private sector banking names. RBL Bank is also something which is now heading towards a breakout. The stock has been trading above the 200-day moving average, but it was just about consolidating. So that's another name which has started to look attractive. City Union Bank is coming out of a major multi-month consolidation about the 169 to 170 mark. And looking at the way the charts have panned out over the last 1 month, a major recovery from those 137, 140 mark. It looks like City Union Bank would also be another name from the mid-cap end which could start to look attractive. Federal Bank has been doing pretty well. The stock is now almost at 180 plus level. So I believe potentially over the next 3 to 6 months, we could be looking at 200 as a target for Federal Bank also.
Okay, so those are some of the banking names that you should have on your radar. But Pashupati, wanted to get a sense from you. This HDFC Bank has been, of course, on a multi-week high now. It seems like this time around, it's not going to be a false start, but perhaps something which might continue. Is that the view that you concur with, that HDFC Bank has finally broken out?
So the big challenge with HDFC Bank is its so-called ownership and what is the free float. And I think MSCI has come out with a number which is higher than the current number, so that will attract probably maybe a significant amount of stock to be bought by HDFC. It's showing 54.8% currently versus the index, which is at 55.5. So that gives it headroom, and I think that means that money is going to come in, and that's why it's jumping. Basically because it's such a large part of the bank Nifty, it's pulling the bank Nifty up, and all the others are kind of following in sympathy. But I'm glad it's finally happening. I know that the merger is having some teething problems and trying to get take some time, but I think that this MSCI announcement is basically or pending announcement is also good for the stock. The other thing is that the perennial question of they have ADR listed in the US, and that they never consider as part of the free float. So maybe they will, and that'll also give a little bit of a bump, because that's a significant part of stock, and that's definitely free float because it can't be owned by anybody from India.
Okay, that's the take coming in on HDFC Bank. In fact, Somit had some, research notes as well as to how much this MSCI inclusion could bring about in terms of inflows. We will, of course, talk about that in just a short while, but it's supposed to be on an average about $3 to $4 billion worth of inflows that you could actually see on HDFC Bank alone. But in the meantime, let's also talk about names like Gujarat Gas, because that has hiked Morbi gas prices by about 2.5 rupees per SCM, which is actually making it more expensive than propane prices as well right now. In fact, Somit is joining in to tell us about how this is going to impact really demand for gas, and how this is actually going to hurt the demand thereby. Can we take it across to Somit? Okay, we will do that in just a short while from now. But in the meantime, let's just bring up the stock price as well of Gujarat Gas, because that, on account of I think higher than its 10-day average volumes of about 1 million shares traded, you are seeing quite a bit of drop down come in on Gujarat Gas, which is now lower by almost about 2% as we speak right now. But Kunal, let's just quickly get a status check on Gujarat Gas, IGL, MGL, etc.
So MGL is the strongest chart out of the pack, because I think that stock has over the last 1 week has done pretty well for itself, climbing above the levels of I think 1700 also I think a couple of days back. Today the stock is of course a bit lower, but when you look at the last 2 days of price volume action, it's been very strong for MGL. IGL has also managed to chug along quite well. The stock over the last 1 to 2 weeks has shown a good breakout above the 500 to 520 odd mark. Gujarat Gas is one of the weaker charts now, because the stock has this very odd and a typical tendency of going into a hurried uptrend, but then immediately post the uptrend, the stock gets into a corrective phase and retests the previous swing lows, or at least comes closer to that kind of a point. So I believe with the inconsistency of price trend for Gujarat Gas, I would avoid that name, but I think MGL could be a better pick.
Okay, so that's the take coming in on the city gas distribution names, but Somit is with us to help us understand the implication of that price hike. Somit, take it away.
Well, if you see, Gujarat Gas will remain in focus on the back of the fact that they have increased the gas prices in the Morbi region, which is the industrial cluster, and this region contributes more than 60% of the total volumes for Gujarat Gas. Now here they have increased the prices by around 2.5 rupees per SCM, and post this price hike, if you see, the gas prices are now at a premium of nearly 3.4 rupees as compared to propane. Now this price hike has been done by Gujarat Gas purely to pass on the increase in raw material costs, because if you see the spot LNG prices in the past couple of months have increased from $10 per MMBTU to $13 per MMBTU, and to pass on this increase in prices, they have increased the gas prices in the Morbi region by around 2.5 rupees per SCM. Now because of earlier, given the fact that gas was not as expensive as propane, the Morbi region was seeing more of gas demand. Around 4.5 MSMD of gas demand was coming in from the Morbi region, and propane demand was around 3.3 MMSMD. But given the fact that now there has been a price hike and now the differential has increased, analysts are expecting that going forward more volumes could shift from gas to propane. So keep an eye out for Gujarat Gas in trade, because though Q1 volumes could be higher, Q2 volumes could come down if more demand shifts towards propane from gas.
Okay, point taken. So price hike, yes, but what the impact on volume in Q2 specifically is something to watch out for. Thanks, Amit, for that. But in the meantime, just taking stock of some more buzzers. In the last few minutes, Adani group of stocks have actually perked up. So Adani Enterprises, Adani Ports, these are a couple of names which are up. And interestingly, India Cements has also seen an uptick. I'm not sure if there is more buying happening from the open market as far as India Cement is concerned, but there's definitely an up move on that stock. Of course, we have mentioned, Gujarat Pipavav, which has been trending higher. But the other interesting news flow that we are tracking right now, and the reason why BHL has actually spiked in the last few minutes, is the exclusive story that we are picking up from agencies, and some of those lines are running for you at the bottom of the screen. when the Indian government has asked power firms to place orders worth $33 billion of equipment orders this year to build the coal power plants. Companies like BHEL, Thermax, Cummins, these are the usual industrial names that used to get these orders. So these are the companies for which the prospects improve, and that's the reason you saw a sharp uptick on BHEL specifically. Those lines will keep running for you at the bottom of the screen. It's a sizable order win perhaps of $33 billion, and even ancillaries like ABB, Siemens, I'm sure will get part of those orders. So all of these industrial names will be in focus on account of that. Pashupati, what's your view on this entire ecosystem of the power sector? Because one thing is sure that there's a huge demand-supply mismatch happening this year because of the peak demand uptake, and now it seems like that the government is going all guns blazing as far as thermal power capacity is concerned. So what about these companies like BHEL that provide the equipment?
Obviously, I mean, the government is continuing to spend on infra, and part of the infra is power infra because certain parts of the country are a little bit short. So I think that any power that's coming up, whether it's coal based or it's renewable of some kind, it's all getting a lot of sort of help from the government and SOPs from the government. So I think that obviously any equipment that's going to be including equipment for storage of power, transmissions, is all going to do well. And you mentioned BHEL, you mentioned some other stocks also. They're all going to benefit from this. The question is, it takes time to build these things, so it's going to take a little bit of time. But since the announcement has been made, it looks like that certainly the Siemens and ABBs of this world are definitely going to get some serious business, and they've actually moved up in the last week, 10 days quietly. So I think that that's another thing that is happening.
Okay, that's quite interesting. In fact, I think, Naresh, if I recall, we've been talking about BHEL, right? About almost 2 months back that it's a good buy and you do see a sustainable move in the stock. What next after it crossing 300?
So technically, if we look at it for the last, say 3 months, there have been multiple attempts around 318. So that was the top in May. Top in, again in May was around 320. Then on the exit poll day, the stock was at 320. So if it crosses 320, we get into a fresh move. And if we go to a longer term chart also, the stock was last at 300, 320 back in 2010. And 2007 highs are around closer to 400. So for now, till the time it holds up about 290, which is the recent swing low, the upside remains a possibility that it will eventually break 320. So one can be a preemptive buyer with a stop loss at 290.
So those are some of the stocks that one needs to watch out for. Real estate pack has also seen quite a bit of an uptick, of course, last year and this year as well. And there's a sustained momentum with respect to demand, both in terms of the luxury segment as well as the higher premium kind of segment as well. Pashupati, I want your view regarding real estate pack, but before that, let me take it across to the conversation my colleague Snehi had with the management of Brookfield REIT.
I think we are very optimistic about the future of commercial real estate. We are seeing very good tailwinds. As you are seeing in the numbers, there are record leasings happening this year. The GCC trend that many people have spoken about, there are many reports which say that the GCCs in the country will go up to maybe 2,400. I think all of that will create a lot of commercial real estate demand. What we say is, we believe India will truly be the office of the world, and is not just about the back office processes, but a lot of knowledge work is moving here. So all in all, looking at all of that, we are very excited about the potential of commercial real estate.
All right, and where do you think, when it comes to the real estate cycle, where do you think India is currently placed? Do you think that this upswing that we've seen recently, do you think that is sustainable going ahead? Are you seeing more legs to the rally? Or are you seeing or penciling in some kind of slowdown coming over here?
Yeah, so I think all the factors which are driving that continue to sustain. There is a demographic advantage that the country has, which is driving all of this. There is a lot of demand in terms of the economic outlook. We know that, in the backdrop of global uncertainty, India is really the shining star, and a lot of the macro factors remain. So I think we continue to be, like I said, very optimistic about the real estate cycle.
In fact, staying with our view on real estate demand will remain strong. That's also the word coming in from the former CEO and VC of HDFC, KK Mistry.
sector is going to grow not just in residential housing but also in commercial housing. And India has really become the back office of the world. So you'll see more data centers getting created, you'll see more REITs getting created. I mean, today there are 4 listed REITs and they've been extremely successful. And I think it's only a matter of time before we see more developers putting their properties in REITs. So you will see potential, continuous strong demand for real estate in the country.
Okay, so and a quick couple of views on what the expectation is from the real estate and the infra sector from the upcoming union budget.
Well, I think the focus will be on affordable housing, in my opinion, and there will be some, in my opinion, some scheme or the other that will come up for the affordable housing segment. If you remember in the olden days, I think it was in 2016 or 15 or 16, the government had this scheme of the CLSS scheme, credit linked subsidy scheme, where if you were a first time home buyer and you were buying a property of up to a certain size, then you were entitled to some amount of concession or subsidy from the government. And I think something like that, now whether it is in the form of a subsidy or not, I don't know, but something of that sort will come for the real estate sector to encourage the lower income people to be able to buy a house.
Back with closing trades right here in ET now. The closing trades are looking quite okay in trade right now. Of course, there are a lot of individual buzzers we've been talking about as to how PFC, REC are holding out well. There's Tata Consumer, which is also looking very, very smart. And then, of course, you know, there are names like IREDA. It's, I think, clocked up about almost 500% from its listing price. That's IREDA in trade for you at the day's highs, currently higher by about 9%. In fact, just earlier this week, we did speak with the management as well, Mr. Das, and here's what he had to tell us about the long-term visibility of the company.
We are expecting that probably now that is in advanced stage and they will take a final call on this. Along with us, also I came to know Utco had also submitted their request. If we get, so in addition to PFC, REC will be another 2 agencies. So we can go to market and we can raise from the market, assuming it is 5.25 or even 5.5. Today we are raising from the market at 7.5, 7.4, something like that. Because 1 week back we raised around 1,500 crore for 10 years and it was 7.42. So against that, if it is 5.2, so almost 150 to 200 bips difference will be there. And if we pass on that to the sector, remember one thing, the new and emerging sector, the challenges are more. So when challenges are more, we load that risk factor to the interest. So many projects which are not becoming bankable today because of that loading, if we have a cheaper source of borrowing, then that much can be passed on to the sector, and the projects which are not becoming bankable today, those will become bankable. And that will further speed up this 500 gigawatt target in the country.
That stock high by almost 8 to 9% right now. But the other financial names which are actually perking up, Ashwapati, are also the likes of Bandhan Bank, Federal Bank, even RBL Bank for matter. We did speak about HDFC Bank, but if I had to ask your view regarding some of these mid-tier banking names, whether a Federal, a RBL, a Bandhan, yes, etc., and the kind of updates that we've got in Q1 as well, anything that seems like a good structural bet to you?
Well, you know, I think if you like the sector, you buy them all because they're all doing pretty well and they're all sort of delivering. I personally am not so wild about the sector, but I'm happy that, you know, HDFC Bank has made some headroom, so people will come to that. It's a flight to quality, if you want to call it. And I guess on the back of that, Kotak has also gone up a little bit today. So I don't think you really need to go to the next year because the first year still has some upside. That's my personal thought.
That top quality itself is providing you upside. Why go to the second round? But Kunal, any differentiated view here? Because Bandhan, Federal, RBL, all showing quite a bit of price volume action today.
Yeah, so now what could probably happen is that the momentum could come back into the mid-cap names. So if someone is looking at, say, Alpha and looking at a higher returns in a short span of time, then maybe Bandhan Bank, RBL Bank, even Federal Bank to a larger extent, City Union Bank, these stocks can provide that high degree of returns. But then I think the high degree of safety could also be on the large cap private sector banking side. So I would probably believe the likes of HDFC Bank, Axis Bank to a larger extent, ICICI Bank, these stocks have done reasonably well for themselves. When you look at this from the last 1 month or 2 month price lows, where these stocks were and currently where these stocks are placed right now. So I believe in that context, one has to try and take, in terms of individual view, whether someone is looking at a short-term trade, then maybe a Bandhan Bank, RBL Bank and Federal Bank would be a better bet. But if someone is looking at a delivery-based buying and with a time frame of 6 months, 1 year plus, then I believe large cap banking names is where one should be.
Okay, that's the take coming in on some of the banking names. But Naresh, on the subject of Reliance, because while it has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting, it's not really been all that consistent. I mean, today I was looking at the prices and it's down about almost 1.25%. What do you read on the charts for Reliance at 3100, 3090 thereabouts?
So the stock spiked up from 2900 to almost 3150 in 3-4 sessions, and now is going to the retest of that breakout around 3020, 3060 mark. So closer to 3060, 80, you want to actually be buying into the stock and expecting eventually the stock makes another move and goes towards 3300, 3400. So it's a buy on dips. So closer to 3060 is where you want to buy. Keep a stop loss below 3000 and expect that the trend takes it further higher. The last range for the stock was almost for 5-6 months around that 2800 to 3020 mark. So such a breakout ideally should see one more leg in the short term. So it's a buy on dip going forward.
Okay, a buy on dip. That's the call coming in on Reliance. But Pashupati, great to have you on the show. Thanks as always for taking the time out and joining in. Let's get in some closing trades as well on that note. Kunal, what's your list like?
So I'll go with JSW Steel. In fact, many of the metal stocks, large cap names specifically, are heading towards a breakout. JSW Steel has confirmed a breakout about the 930 levels. Looks attractive from a BTST as well as a short-term swing trade.
Right. Naresh, what about your ideas?
So that would be a buy on City Union Bank. The stock has broken out above the highs made in December 23, where it had started a gap down and went all the way down to 125. And it's also almost a 1.5 year high and is still available back to the 2019 prices. So could be a big catch up going forward. So expecting it to go eventually towards 190, 200.
Okay, that's a call coming in on City Union Bank. We're going to take a very quick break on that note. But as we do that, with markets now sustaining record high levels, investor optimism will continue to rise. That's the word coming in from HDFC AMC MD Navneet Munot. Let's hear out an exclusive chat he had with ET Now.
Markets are at a new high. It's definitely a cause of celebration. It reflects India's macroeconomic fundamentals. It reflects that India has got political stability, macroeconomic stability, financial stability. There's tremendous faith on the government's policy continuity.
You spoke about policy continuity, and we have the budget around the corner. What's your budget wish list looking like? Any demands that you have from the finance minister this time around?
No, I think the Prime Minister has already spoken. We have heard Finance Minister and all the other policymakers. There is continuity. Everybody has tremendous faith that the path towards structural reform will continue, path towards fiscal prudence will continue, path towards getting greater participation of larger number of investors in the capital markets, that will continue. And the tremendous focus on the infrastructure that government has got over the last several years on digital infrastructure, physical infrastructure, social infrastructure, that will continue. So India is poised to become a developed country, and we are all looking forward to be a participant in this journey.
Welcome back. A quick look at what's happening across the globe, because the European markets have opened in the green. So there's a bit of a tinge of green there. Do remember the biggest political event to watch out for across the globe right now is, of course, the UK election, which is expected to happen tomorrow. After 14 years of lull, it is expected that Labour Party is going to come back to power. So there might be a complete change of power as far as UK is concerned. And we're watching out for that. Ahead of that, the European markets have opened 1.5% higher. But that's an important event to track. In the US as well, the rates are on the positive side. So Dow futures, for instance, is up around 50 points, and overall it seems like there's quite a bit of green on the screen across the globe right now. The other important bit we are tracking right now is the kind of updates that we're getting with respect to expectations of the budget as well. Okay, but before that, RBI is holding meeting with some of the bankers right now. We do understand that that meeting is underway as we speak, but Ankur is joining us to help us understand what could probably be on the agenda. Ankur, off late, of course, there have been a lot of red flags which have been raised by the RBI with respect to the unsecured asset quality. There was those, LDR, CDR issues, etc. as well. What exactly is on the agenda today, and who all are attending?
Yes, we understand through sources that Reserve Bank of India is meeting bankers, and this meeting is underway as we speak. A few of the bankers have already been out of the meeting, and what we understood was that in the first lot, PSU bankers were called, and after that, private bankers meeting is underway, meaning there is RBI governor, RBI deputy governor, and some of the other officials of Reserve Bank of India are present in the meeting. And as far as the attendance of the banks are concerned, all the top PSU bank as well as private bank chiefs are there, which are present in the meeting. Remember, last year also a similar kind of meeting was called by Reserve Bank of India, and the areas of discussion included credit and deposit growth. This year, as we know that asset quality of the banks has improved, you would have seen in the financial stability report, even the stress test is indicating that there is not much deterioration in the asset quality which is expected, but credit deposit growth, which has been concern area of Reserve Bank of India, is likely to be discussed in the meeting. We also understand that customer protection, which is one of the foremost priorities of Reserve Bank of India, is also likely to be discussed in the meeting, which is currently underway.
Right, okay, we'll leave it at that. This is going to be an important one, and of course, we're going to keep a close track on that. Let's welcome on board Dipan Mehta as well and find out what he's making of the market right now. Dipan, just when you think afternoon, firstly, that the market is getting a little toppish, it moves a little bit more, and now it's the private banks which have clearly, taken the charge upon themselves. But what next? Do you think it's time for some consolidation ahead of the budget or in the run-up to the budget at least?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on your show. I think we are seeing consolidation underway, and this is the full power of money coming to the markets, which is visible on the screens over here, that there's not been a reaction or a steep correction for many, many quarters. And it may continue for like this for many more quarters ahead as well, because there are no triggers for the market to correct. I think we are in complete blue sky scenario, which I haven't seen in years or decades, if I may say. And I think irrespective of whatever comes in the budget, the markets can only scale higher and higher, and valuations can only go higher and higher because because of the force of the money which is coming into Indian equities. And fortunately, or whichever way you look at it, depending on whether you're a bull or a bear, there are not so many mega IPOs also happening. And whatever supply is coming in from of QIPs or promoters selling or new listings, new IPOs, all of that is getting more than easily absorbed by the quantum, or I would say massive quantum of money coming into our equity markets. So this is no longer markets going up purely on fundamentals. It's a market going up because of the force of liquidity which is coming into it.
Okay, so liquidity is one factor which is definitely impacting the market mood right now. But the other thing that the market is expecting a lot of focus with respect to the rural recovery in the budget. And I would just want to run you through of some of the details that we're getting in from agencies. The exclusive sources picking up that India is planning to hike rural housing subsidies to $6.5 billion. And this after, this is an uptick from $4 billion which was there earlier. And even with respect to the other upticks which are expected in the other programs as well, government is likely to hike allocations for rural jobs program from earlier estimate of 860 billion rupees in the last year to a further amount which is higher than that one. The finance minister is expected to provide that fillip in the budget, which is expected to be around the corner, maybe somewhere between 20 to 25th July. But the underlying theme, Dipan, seems to be the fact that rural recovery is high on agenda, is a high priority item for the government right now. If you really had to play that theme of rural recovery, which is the best way to play that?
I think the best way to play that, as well as a good monsoon, is the agrochemical companies and the fertilizer companies, say the likes of Zuari or Coromandel International, stocks like that. There's Dhanuka Pesticides also, which comes to mind. PI Industries, which is a great company which is focused on contract manufacturing for global markets and has got a very solid India business as well. So I would say that rural recovery and good monsoon, that the best way to play would be to these two companies. And then, of course, in auto, there is Mahindra & Mahindra, which is India's largest farm equipment company. And mind you, tractors and farm equipment have been a laggard. And despite that, the company has displayed such exceptional financial performance. So when actually the tractor market also starts to move higher, then that also will start to contribute to the company's top line and bottom line. So there are a few choices for investors available when it comes to a rural play. I would even add microfinance companies to the list. They are also trading at extremely attractive valuations. And there are a few pockets of concern about loan waivers. That ugly trend has raised its head. But the microfinance industry has been dealing with it for the last several decades, and I'm sure this time around also they will be able to manage that particular risk factor. But these are all companies I feel which have, if you see the last 3-4 years, maybe the exception of M&M, they have broadly underperformed the market. But now I think there are solid triggers in place for them to start outperforming.
Okay, that's the take coming in on some of those buzzing, trades right now. In the meantime, just take a look at HDFC Bank. While that stands tall by about 2%, Kotak actually has been quite the intriguing chart today. It started off down about over 1%. From there, saw a recovery, and now it's, by the way, overtaken HDFC Bank as well in terms of a percentage move. It's sitting at a gain of nearly about 2.5% or so. That's 41 points up in the green. Tata Consumer, of course, has been a very strong show today. That continues to scale up. A near about 4% move is what you're seeing on that stock right now. Naresh, let's get the chart reading of Tata Consumer at 1146.
The stock has been sideways after that massive move in 2023 from sub 700 to 1250. For now, it was drifting lower after a gap up. So 1160 is where the major swing highs are. If it sustains above 1160, that would be a short-term breakout. Technically, the consolidation has taken quite a few months now, so the longer-term trend is still positive. Above 1160, it again opens up a move possibly to 1250 again.
Right. Dipan, what is your own sense on the FMCG plays? Would you say that this is just a tactical move, or would you say that there's something constructive here and there are more legs to the rural recovery play?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the message. We're talking about which industry?
No, I'm just talking about FMCG at large.
Yeah, of course, FMCG also benefits from higher rural spends, and there could always be, premiumization play in the rural markets, up trading instead of down trading, which may benefit FMCG stocks. But, I'm not a great fan of FMCG at this point of time. A lot of their categories are, I would say, mature categories: soaps, detergents, hair oil, shampoos. I think, more or less the growth rates will be in line with population growth rates. And I'm not that bullish on these companies. We want to buy businesses which can grow at a solid 15-20% type of top line growth rates. I don't see that happening in a lot of the FMCG stocks, so I would like to avoid them. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, that there are many choices when it comes to rural play. I mean, you could even add two-wheelers to the list. And as I said, fertilizers, pesticides, M&M. So there are so many choices which are available, and I would say focus over there than the FMCG stocks.
Point taken. In the meantime, just wanted to highlight that BHL has actually managed to pile on more gains. When we were talking about that $33 billion equipment ordering that might happen this year, that stock was up 3%. Right now, it's trading with a gain of 5%. And even Thermax, it was fairly quiet at that time when news hit the screen that there could be this additional ordering of $33 billion coming in, and government is pushing for that. So that stock is now reacting positively, up around 3%. But sticking to the theme of two-wheelers, a big disruption perhaps which could be for the two-wheeler industry back home in India is the launch of the first CNG bike, and that's expected to happen on 5th July from the house of Bajaj Auto. We've already seen the first glimpse, which is up for you on the screen, but what does the management have to say about what could it mean for the industry, what could be the potential name, what are the other features to watch out for? Listen into the conversation we had with Mr. Rakesh Sharma of Bajaj Auto.
It addresses a very large market size. Almost 70% of the 1 million per month market of motorcycles is got some level of sensitivity to fuel economy. And our whole effort was that we have to make a significant difference to it. Bruiser was the code name, and that much I can tell you that it is not going to be Bruiser. The brand name is something else. It's an evocative brand name, and it's going to be something else. It's a bike, like I said, which has got a very standout style. And then it has got biofuel capability in the sense that it has got both CNG and petrol. So that brings in a large amount of reassurance. And secondly, it also increases its range. I can also tell you that we will start with one or two products, but we intend, depending on how this thing is received, the pace at which it is being received, we intend to widen the portfolio.
Okay, that's the management of Bajaj Auto ahead of that mega CNG much awaited launch. But Kunal, on the charts, which of the two-wheelers are looking strongest right now, and where is it that you feel that there's opportunity to still buy in?
So it's only Bajaj Auto which is looking the strongest as of now. Eicher Motor has gone through a correction, and it looks like that the stock is broken some neutral zone on the indicators on the downside, which means that the stock can particularly go into a drag further. Hero MotoCorp has been a lot more sideways. The stock has been stuck into a range just about that 5,500 mark. So I think over the last 4 or 5 days at least, the stock is trading into a band of 150 points, which is just 2% to 3%, and that too at a point where the markets and the indices are doing pretty much strongly for themselves. So I would probably believe that Bajaj Auto is the strongest name from the pack. The stock, I think had a touch and go moment towards the 10,000 mark just about a couple of weeks back. And I think at 9,400 mark, the stock has also come back towards a 50-day moving average. So the risk to buy or to initiate a buy is a bit more attractive.
Okay, point taken. So Bajaj Auto, one of the strongest two-wheeler names, at least on the charts right now. Dipan, you've been associated, of course, with the markets for a very long time. What do you make of this latest SEBI circular coming in on uniform pricing? Do you think this could have long-lasting damaging impact with the kind of, zero brokerages and discounting going away? And do you think that could hamper the investment environment in the country?
No, not at all. In fact, it will go a long way towards improving the investment and trading environment, and provide a level playing field, and some of the practices which were not so desirable, they will get curbed. And on the whole, I think it is very positive for the even for the discount brokers. It is positive because then they will look at charging in a more fair manner and I would say more transparent manner. And it's not the only source of revenue for brokerages, but they will work around it. See, the broking industry has had so many challenges in the last 15, 20 years, and still has gone from strength to strength, all thanks to the market. So this is a great time in the for the regulator to make such changes, because we are in a bull market situation, and all of these damages and costs can get easily absorbed. So it's a step in the right direction. I completely welcome it. There will be a few stock brokerages which will be impacted, but they are very strong, and they will find ways and means to cover that revenue gap.
Right, okay, that's the take coming in on some of those brokerage names. Let's just bring up Angel One also once again, because yesterday, of course, the stock was starkly lower. Today, while it's recovered and it's off the day's lows, but it's still not recovered back into the green, barring that starting point in trade. What else has been moving up today? Titan, of course, is in the red. Reliance, like we told you. L&T is taking a bit of a breather today. There's HCL Technologies, Bharti, all flat in trade. Not much a move coming in from Sun Pharma either. And then, of course, I want to see what the IT pack as well is up to, because one can see TCS is in the red right now, LTIM a little bit soft, and that's pretty much the case with an HCL Technologies as well. Whereas Infosys, that too will just come up for you on your screens next. Dipan, any high hopes from IT this quarter? Do you think that finally the earnings could have bottomed out?
Difficult to call. Let's just wait and watch. We are getting into earnings season. IT is always first off the block. And let us see what the managements have to say. I'm not going with great expectations. I think that software service companies are more of a 25, 26, fiscal 25, 26 story. And some of it, some amount of buying will come before that. But the real earnings growth will come only in the next fiscal. And most importantly, I think as we did in the last earnings season, we should be tracking how big this AI opportunity is for the IT services industry. I didn't have any clear answers in the last earnings season, but then it's a very fast-paced kind of a vertical. Let us see what managements have to say this time around.
Watch, that's the verdict on IT right now. Not completely out of the woods, but time now to take some BTST trades from our technical experts. Naresh, what's the buy today, sell tomorrow idea?
So first would be a buy on City Union Bank. The stock has given a breakout and sustaining well. Stop loss at 168, target price of 176. Second would be a buy on Granules India. Continues in the strong trend. New 52-week high today as well. Stop loss at 497, target price of 515.
Okay, and Kunal, what about your recommendations?
So the first one is City Union Bank with a target of 178, stop loss 166. The stock confirming a breakout about the 170 mark, which is a swing resistance. And RK Forging is the other stock which I would suggest as a buy. The stock completing a bullish flag formation on the daily charts, coming out after 1.5 odd weeks of consolidation. So buy with a target of 990, stop loss at 930.
Okay, so that's a view coming in on some of these BTSC trades. But in the meantime, what else is happening in the market? Apart from financials, not really much. Yes, of course, you have some amount of green coming in on the likes of HFCL, etc. But there's not a huge pocket per se. But the other bit that we have been talking about of late, Dipan, and of course, that's been defense and manufacturing as a theme. Do you think there is a risk that perhaps if there is not as much part of government focus as the street is expecting in budget, some of these stocks can get derated, or do you think it's just the fundamental structural story of India right now that it is going from strength to strength as far as the entire manufacturing ecosystem is concerned?
So I think defense manufacturing stocks are largely have been well discovered. They are trading at really fancy multiples, whether it's private sector, public sector, and some of them are, of course, delivering on the numbers as well. But the street has discounted these stocks too much into the future. Of course, there is earning visibility, but that also has got discounted. It's I would say, a fast-moving train. Doesn't make sense to get onto that train at this point of time. 25-30% correction for whatever reason may be worth it. But at these levels, I wouldn't advocate getting into any of these defense stocks or railway stocks for that matter.
Right. Okay, that's the take coming in on some of the defense names. In the meantime, like we've been pointing out, some of the other names which are in focus. There's also Purvankara. They bought a 7-acre land parcel in Bangalore. The potential GDV could stand around almost 900 crore rupees. Yesterday, there was an upgrade on an Anantraj Industries. That stock perked up very smartly. And Godrej Properties, in any case, has been a strong one of late. Dipan, how much more legs to the realty rally, and does it seem like there's value on the table right now also to add perhaps into any of these real estate names?
No, I would be a bit cautious on real estate also. Last 12 months, it's being in that segment has been amongst the best performing vertical within the entire stock market, and valuations are on the higher side over there. No doubt they are keeping on adding new projects and new opportunities are coming their way. The turnover per se, new home sales, resales, I think all are shaping up very well. Prices also are holding up very well, and I haven't seen such great trends for real estate industry in decades. But a lot of it has got captured in the stock price. And for an industry which is cyclical, and mind you, it is cyclical in nature, to start paying very high price to earnings, price to book multiples is not a wise strategy. So I just want to wait and watch. Real estate being cyclical, you will have a phase where there could be correction because of actual slowdown in new home sales or new projects. And that may be a good entry point with a long-term view, but not just now.
Okay, so maybe not just now, but long-term view is something to watch out for on real estate pack. Dipan, have you looked at these latest IPOs which are underway, and quite a few at that? For now, we have Bansal Wire, which has got fully subscribed on day one itself, and even Emcure has got great amount of traction. Have you looked at either of the names?
No, I think but Emcure certainly will keep on our watch list because we're very positive on pharmaceutical companies. I think that pharma industry seems to have entered a new growth phase. Domestic formulation sales are steady. US generic market, there is slightly lesser competitive intensity, newer opportunities opening up over there, and Indian companies are able to manage US FDA inspections far better. Even global pharmaceutical markets are looking up, and rest of the world, excluding US, also revenues are pretty strong. Raw material prices are pretty stable for the industry as a whole. So very bullish on pharma. And in the event of there being some turmoil in the Indian economy or Indian equity markets, pharma is a great defensive play. So any pharma company, and especially I would say a major player like Emcure, will be on our market watch list. But I think the IPO is coming at expensive valuations. Let us see 6 months, 1 year down the line, post reporting 2-3 quarters of earnings, where the valuations are actually standing at.
Right. In fact, just earlier today, we had Rahul Shah from Motilal Oswal, and here's his opinion on Emcure.
The way the markets have been, and I think a long time we've seen a good IPO coming relating to the market. So a lot of IPOs in the recent time, but I think that is a very prominent name for quite some time. People were anticipating. So I think good IPO, and I think way they have priced it also very reasonably priced, and some money to be made on the table for the investors. And in a pharma pack, when we are seeing that most of the pharma packs doing quite well, and the way the segment which has been into MCure is into, so I think all the front they have been firing at this point of time. So my sense is, I think obviously one should allocate for a subscription, and obviously as an investment part of an allocation in their portfolio at this current prices.
Okay, so that's about MCure, but in the last few minutes, Solar Industries has seen quite a bit of traction. There's Cello World, which is also reacting to that QIP news, and Solar Industries did get one of the big approvals. There's AGM happening tomorrow. All of that is keeping that stock excited, and can't take your eyes away from Castrol, a solid 15% rally. Naresh, have you been looking at any of these names? Solar Industries, Cello World, even the Castrols of the world?
So Solar and Premier Explosives both have been ancillaries of defense, which have continued to do well. Similar trend compared to the defense names. So continues to look okay. Only time to trim going forward, but not a buy at current levels. Castrol is interesting because today it has seen a very large volume and has finally hit almost a 5-6 year high. The last time the stock was at 230 was back in 2016-18. So looks like a trend change and a momentum shift continues for the stock. Dips to 230 to 220 would still be a buy on Castrol.
Right, okay. Those are some of the buzzing stocks right now in trade. PFC, REC, of course, it's unending move really on both those stocks. PFC is now clocking a 6% move, REC higher by 4.5%. BHEL, by the way, has scaled up a good 5.5% as well in trade. Kunal, still an entry, you think, BHEL around those 310, 314 odd levels?
Yeah, very bullish on the stock, and in fact, after that sharp correction on 4th of June, the stock had actually given much more better entry points. So, it was consolidating at the 285, 290 mark for quite some time. Even at current levels of 300 plus, I would still believe that it's a very good buy. The stock has not yet confirmed a breakout of the previous size of 322. So I think in that aspect, even a swing trade over here for another 10 to 15 points on the upside could be something in the offing.
Okay, on that note, Naresh, Kunal, as well as Dipan, we'll let you go. Thanks so much for making time and speaking with us. But talking about big events which are lined up for tomorrow, of course, we talked about the weekly expiry, which is there tomorrow. The fact that the US markets are going to be shut on account of Independence Day. So we won't get any cues for Friday morning from there. Tomorrow is the election as far as UK is concerned. Back home as well, a lot of IPOs underway, and the New York Fed President John Williams is visiting India. So we'll be watching out for all of that. But let me take it across to Simita to get a sense as to what exactly are the issues at hand as far as the UK polls are concerned.
Right, so the UK will hold its first national election in almost 5 years tomorrow. Opinion polls suggest that Indian descent Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party could be punished for failing to deliver on promises made during 14 years of the party being in power. But these past years have been marked by a sluggish economy, declining public services, making the Labour Party race ahead as far as opinion polls are concerned. In fact, its campaign has focused on a single word, and that is change. And that's due to a couple of factors. Number one, the cost of crisis. Well, this is a big election issue. This election, in fact, has been dominated by the cost of living crisis. So slow economic growth coupled with high inflation, high mortgage rates have pushed people to question government's policies. Before Sunak, party member Liz Truss also lasted for just 45 days due to her policies that were stunting economic growth. Number two is immigration. Well, voters also feel that the government has lost control over Britain's borders, given that thousands of asylum seekers have entered the country in recent years. Number three is health. Well, UK's National Health Service is plagued with long waiting lists for everything from dental care to cancer treatment, and hence these are part of election manifestos of both the parties as well, besides issues like an increase in defence spending, raising money, wealth creation and building homes. Now, the Conservative Party says that its economic plan is now working. However, it's faced It's been facing one challenge after another, the global financial crisis in 2010, then leaving the European Union, and then the cost of living crisis post the Russia-Ukraine war. So there's that much pressure on Sunak, who called snap elections hoping to benefit from a summer election. Now, from an India standpoint, FTA with India is being seen as high priority for both the parties. In fact, because getting this right will actually mean higher economic growth, increased private sector investment, and both sides have been supporting this. Labour Party has also been claiming to seek a new partnership, including the FTA with India. All eyes now on Friday when the results start trickling in.
Surely all eyes on the UK elections that have been going on. Thank you so much for that, Sumita. But let's wind down this edition of Closing Trades by looking at what the market and where it will be closing at. Today we are seeing that Nifty will be managing to close around those day high levels, 22,003 around that mark. It's what it's managing to close at. Sensex above the 80,000 mark, we'll be seeing it. Today it managed to touch that at the early morning trade, and now in the closing trade also above that 80,000 mark. So Sensex closing above 80,000, 0.7% of uptick that we're seeing for the Nifty as well as the Sensex. So benchmark indices is doing well. Let's pull up the mid cap and the small cap. We're seeing a bit of an outperformance today that came in from the mid and the small cap. Small cap holding on to gains of almost 1% at the end of the day. Mid cap up almost 0.8% of the trade today at the end of the day. So yes, good performance coming in from the broader markets. Nifty Bank, that's the star performer today. The financials, that's the star performer. Nifty Bank, top sectoral gainer, 1.7% of an uptick at the end of the day, and 800 points uptick for Nifty Bank. 53,000 above that mark was what Nifty Bank will be closing at, led by obviously HDFC Bank that we've seen today. In terms of the move that we could see from FII holdings, seeing a bit of a reduction coming in June, giving a chance that maybe MSCI weighted index could see an increase starting from 13th August. That rejig will happen, and inflows coming in from the 30th of August. So HDFC Bank surely closing up with almost 2% of gain. Federal Bank, that's another one that we should pull up as well. Today buzzing in trade on the back of its Q1 update, 4%, almost 3 to 4% uptick there, closing with those gains. Other than that, Bandhan Bank, RBL Bank, those were also some of the banks that have been buzzing in trade today, and interesting ones to watch out for. Now, today what didn't do well, let's pull the Nifty IT, because Nifty IT was a bit subdued in trade, was trading in the red at one point of time, though Nifty IT has seen a bit of a recovery from the day's lowest point. Not too much of a traction, but yes, Nifty IT will be closing with gains of almost 0.1% in trade today. What's not doing well today is the Nifty Media. That's down almost 0.5% in trade. We are seeing Z, which is down again. We are seeing Nazara, PVR, Inox, which are under pressure today. So yes, keeping an eye out on that one. Other than that, we had Purvankara, which was buzzing in trade on the back of news flows. We had Angel One, Motilal Oswal, which was still a bit under pressure today. So we'll be keeping an eye out on those, and especially PFC and REC among the top FNO gainers on the back of the note that came in from Bernstein, a positive initiation coverage. So yes, keeping an eye out on these names today. But markets surely closing almost near the day's highest point. Sensex at the 80,000 mark.